And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Simon, and you're welcome to Flight Past. We are a historic sort of podcast, streamcast kind of thing, where essentially I use Microsoft Flight Simulator to investigate some of the key moments in history, and what I've been doing is looking at some subjects. We looked at D-Day 1944, we've looked at Waterloo, and we're currently now in the Huey over the Falkland Islands, looking at the Falkland Islands War of 1982. Now, this is about the third stream in. Don't worry, though, if you want to go back and have a look at the beginning of the stream, you can check it out. It's all uploaded onto YouTube, so go and check out the YouTube channel. And so far, we've been discussing... we've discussed the causes of the war. We looked into the how it sort of started, the occupations of initially of the southern full islands in the Sandwich Islands, and then South Georgia, and then we looked at the invasion here at the Falklands. Now, the style of this streamcast is essentially quite relaxed, so don't expect us to run through it all today, but please feel free to join in, and if you've got any information that you want to share, then please do. And we'll just wait for people to join in. Now, the idea of these streams is essentially that I'm going to be flying live in the Huey, and we always seem to be flying in the Canadian colours. And it's just to show you, but essentially, that it's live. I do have extensive notes, but I try to sort of keep it quite sort of chatty. So there will be mistakes made. I'm trying to fly at the same time. So you, as a co-pilot, as you can see there, guy at the back, good morning to you. He's currently our co-pilot. So he's going to be in charge of making sure I don't crash. And so you can make sure any lights that are flashing I don't miss. You also, as co-pilot, have got to make sure fact check me, make sure I get all my facts right, and essentially just enjoy the stream. It's not about being right. It's basically the whole idea about this channel is essentially being able to do something you couldn't do in real life. I'm now flying a helicopter over the Falkland Islands, with a one-to-one recreation of the Earth, and so I can see the shape of the land, the topography, the lack of trees, for example. Here you can see these hills here. These are the hills that surround Stanley. So these are some of the sites of some of the major battlefields of the Falklands War, and we will come to them eventually. And you can see then the distances involved and the conditions that were that was going on. And incidentally, I've had to move the time forwards because this is a South Atlantic winter, and it doesn't start getting light until sort of 9 o'clock in the morning. So I've had to shift the light a little bit so that we can actually see it. So this is early morning down in the South Atlantic. Let's have a little bit of a recap then of what we've been talking about, just to get everyone up to speed. So we're talking in the Falklands War was 1982, and essentially it all really starts kicking off when some Argentine troops take over this sort of scrap contract, or use this scrap contract on South Georgia to essentially put Argentine special forces onto that island and raise the flag. Now, what that meant? Well, we discussed this before in the very, very first episode, that in 1976, so 6 years earlier, there was actually Argentine forces put onto a British overseas dependency island called Southern Fool, very tiny island at the very tip of the Sandwich Islands in the South Atlantic. And initially, the Foreign Office at the time, under Crossland and later David Owen, kind of ignored it and managed to keep it quiet. And because it was such a small thing, and of course this sets off this sort of thing in the minds of the Argentine military dictatorship that basically takes over after the coup in 1976, I think 1977. That basically the British are always going to back down when it comes to them putting forces onto these islands. And there was one thing, I think the Falkland Islands saw themselves as British and did a lot of complaining, but in the background for many years, essentially the Foreign Office was trying to work out a way to pass the islands over to Argentina, essentially because the British couldn't really afford them anymore, or didn't want the hassle anymore. But of course the Falkland Islanders essentially considered themselves British, and so when the South Georgian flag is raised at the time, the problem is this is no longer, it's not a quiet thing. It's not something that the British government, especially one that's in times of economic distress, feels it could ignore, and the outrage is high back in the British Isles, and so it becomes something where you've got an Argentine junta trying to essentially deflect domestic issues by capturing these islands, and then you also have a British Prime Minister who can't be seen to be weak, and so these two forces come to a head. Argentine forces essentially invade here on I believe it's the 1st of April, and we discussed the exact way that they came in. We're looking now at Stanley Harbour, just where my white dot is. And essentially we had Argentine commanders came over from a beach over here called, I think it's here, where the dot is now. This is Green Beach, or Green Bay, I think, and the commanders of Argentina came around here to this barracks, which is just below us at the foot of the harbour. This was a Moody Brook barracks, and another commander force came across here, essentially into the middle of this inlet here, where there was a government house. The commanders down here actually found that the barracks were empty, and the Marines were up here at the Pembroke Peninsula, which is where the Stanley Airfield is. And then we got some troops landed by submarine on this area here, which is where the lighthouse was. They came across here then, and they secured this bay here, which is called York Bay. Now, this York Bay was where they mainly landed most of their amphibious Amtraks, and then they managed to, with helicopter infiltration as well, onto the Pembroke Peninsula, started to capture the airfield. That allows C-130s to be brought in, and eventually the Argentines come across this neck here, and then down into Stanley, and Rex Hunt, the governor, eventually orders the Marines, after destroying a couple of Amtraks here and here. Eventually they surrender, and the Argentines have taken over. the rapid response to this is quite amazing. If you think now, this is the 1st of April. Already there are ships being sent from the UK as a task force, and essentially what they're trying to do, there's submarines being sent down, Splendid and Spartan and Conqueror. Nuclear submarines are racing down here, essentially to the British government want to impose a 200-mile exclusion zone around the islands, and so they're trying to get military forces down here as quickly as possible. They send two aircraft carriers or cruisers, the Invincible and the Hermes, and essentially then and lots of frigates and destroyers, and they're trying to race down here via Ascension Island, essentially, to put as much military pressure on the Argentines to withdraw and try to negotiate withdrawal with Argentina. But it's there's the general, the Secretary Haig is the US mediator in all this, and he's flying backwards and forwards between London and Buenos Aires trying to negotiate a withdrawal. But the British government's position was essentially that there would be no discussions about the sovereignty of the Falkland Islands until the Argentine forces had withdrawn, and they refused to do that. We then talked about how the first ships into the area, the submarines, for example, got down here, and there was a period where they were essentially doing tracking the it's the 25th of May is the name of the aircraft carrier, and they were tracking that aircraft carrier, and they were seeking permission to fire on it, but it was too early in the negotiations for something like that to happen. And in the meantime, a number of frigates and destroyers are racing down into the South Atlantic, and they go to they're here to make sure that there's a presence in the area, that the 200-mile exclusion zone is policed, and a section of those goes off to South Georgia, and there's a number of insertions of SAS and SBS and Royal Marines commandos onto South Georgia. And like we discussed in the second stream, it was all there was a few issues going on with that, where you can go back and look at that. But essentially, one of the Santa Fe, which was the submarine that was used here to land Argentine troops on this peninsula over here, was the Santa Fe. Anyway, it got caught on the surface at South Georgia, presumably trying to get supplies to the guys there, or extract someone or put someone on. It got caught on the surface by some Navy Wasps and Lynxes and Oessex from the ships Brilliant and I can't remember the other one. There's about three of them. Endurance as well was out there. HMS Endurance, the Antarctic survey ship. Eventually, with the bombardment of the Argentine place at Grünwalden and at Leith Harbour, the Argentine forces surrender there, and that meant that the South Georgian invasion lasted around about 20 days. So that was in the second part of the stream, and in the third part of the stream that we did this week, we started to look essentially at how what happened when the British task force starts to arrive on in this area in the total exclusion zone, and we discussed essentially how the Argentine navies came out of their ports with the Belgrano to the south, and the 25th of May, the aircraft carrier on 25th of May to the north, and it looked to Sandy Woodward that they were trying to put the task force into some sort of pincer attack, and we end up with a series of events going back to Northwood in the UK, and the permission essentially from the Prime Minister's desk that the Belgrano would be sunk, because Conqueror couldn't guarantee that it could track it all the time. So that's when I argued that this conflict then would turn into a serious war. There was a point there where it was very unlikely that these sides would now back down, and this sort of standoff diplomatic war that had been occurring had now turned into a hot war. And we saw immediately that there was a number of there began an air battle essentially over the Falklands, and trying to win at least air superiority. Unlikely to get air supremacy, but there was a battle, and we discussed a lot of the aircraft that got destroyed. There was a number of Pucara at Goose Green, a couple of Mirages got shot down, one by Harrier and the other one actually by air defences here on the Stanley airfield. And there was a Harrier shot down at Goose Green. Flight Lieutenant Taylor's Harrier was shot down by anti-aircraft guns at Goose Green. And so essentially what we're seeing here from a British point of view is that they're trying to deny the skies. And one of the big attacks was on this airfield here. And this is Stanley airfield, and we discussed the Vulcan bombing attack, Vulcan bomber attacks, which was called Black Buck. And we could see evidence of the bombing runs still evident on the ground, and we'll fly over there now just to show anyone who's just joining these the evidence of the bombs. The Vulcan bombs dropped, I think, something like 8 bombs on their runs, and they were 1,000-pound bombs. And so a lot of these craters, you can see they're probably in the region of 10 meters across. And you can see them still on the in the ground. And in fact, this whole peninsula here got hit very hard. The airfield was covered with anti-aircraft guns, radar stations, and there was also headquarters of infantry around here. And you can see a lot of this. These pools of water here are essentially from bomb craters. But we'll fly over here, look over here in this direction where this white dot is now, and you should see a number of craters that were caused by the first Vulcan bomb run, which was called Black Buck 1, that actually began landing on the runway and then across the airfield beyond it. And we should see it's coming up. You can see, I believe, they're here. Just where this white dot is. And there you go. You're going to get the reflections now off the pools. So these dots here, look, are all essentially 1,000-pound bomb craters that was generated from the Vulcan bomber attack, and we'll sweep around and you'll see the line of them as we go around. Incidentally, this is Hooker's Point, so one of the Amtraks was destroyed here when the Marines were pulling back and defending this neck. But this neck also, just to the left here, just where the white dot is now, actually was a station for an Exocet missile launcher. So that's what we discussed about the bombing area. So essentially the British forces are trying to deny the air. Interesting enough, we then, by the way, spoke about the Sheffield, HMS Sheffield being hit by an Exocet missile. And and that's where we kind of left it last time. We flew down and had a look at some of the places where Flight Lieutenant Taylor's Harrier was shot down. But what we're doing here is we're going to now. What happens then is there's a lull in a certain sense in the fighting. There was the task forces on here, and this area is interesting because a lot of there's a lot of frigates came out here and they were bombarding this position. So this peninsula is covered with not only bombs from Vulcans, there was raids from Harriers. We were dropping 500-pound bombs. In fact, let's just jump out here and see if we can show this. And a lot of these craters as well are from Royal Naval shelling from ships such as, I think, Glamorgan. You can see here. So this is an example of the sort of naval gunfire, Harrier jump jet, 500-pound bombs. This was in this area mainly. And the Vulcan bombs landed mainly down to the western side of the airfield. You can see here clearly the line of Black Buck 1 raid. It kind of comes down here. You can see boom, boom, boom. And then there was another one here. Boom, 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 boom. This is the trail end of that run. There's probably about 8 bombs dropped. 2 of them, I believe, on the first run landed, and in the second bunch of runs they actually missed, I believe. They're more over this side. Essentially this one might be one of them, one of the craters here, a remnant of the latter runs. So that's one thing I wanted to just quickly what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break after this, but just discuss here the reasoning that the Argentines might have they made a bit of a strategic mistake here, is that they didn't attempt to extend this runway when they initially invaded. And if they had done immediately, then this could have been a place where Mirages, daggers, and Skyhawks could have used. And that would have meant that their range would have been a lot further, because obviously they wouldn't have to come all the way from the mainland, and the mainland is at least 400 miles, almost 500 miles, and the task force a lot of the time were hundreds of miles, 100 miles out out there towards the sun. So having the ability to fly Mirages or Skyhawks from here would have been a big problem for the British. The other argument that some people have made concerning the General Belgrano, which was the 1938 built cruiser, is that it could have been moored in this harbour. I mean, they could have literally moored it essentially here next to Stanley, with its ability then to use its big guns to protect the approaches to Stanley from the east, likely approaches, or even to the north, and the ability to protect the airfield here. Also, by mooring it next to Stanley, it makes it a difficult target for bombers to approach without causing inflicting civilian casualties by being so close to the civilian population. And so some have argued that because it was quite an obsolete kind of cruiser, but it did have a range probably of around about 12.5 miles for its guns. It meant that then it could deny the Royal Navy the ability to move their frigates and destroyers close up to use their guns against this position. So that is argued to be a better use, would have been a better use of the General Belgrano in hindsight, essentially. Right. So that I'm going to leave. I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to look at why I've called it San Carlos Bay ? And we'll also look into some of the impacts, essentially, of these air raids on the airfield, essentially on the Argentines' ability to supply their troops. So if you are on Twitch watching, I'm going to be gone for a couple of minutes only. And but you can, if you want to catch up, then on YouTube there's a whole playlist now started, and you can go back and start watching the previous streams on there. You'll also find streams on D-Day and Waterloo, and you'll see also during these videos the cards will pop up every now and then. The music, by the way, last little thing, music is by me, it's by E. Piraten, capital E, capital P, I-R-A-T-E-N, and you can get that music for free on Bandcamp, so just search that. Right, back in a minute. And welcome back to Flight Paths. My name is Simon, and we, by the way, that track you could hear at the beginning of the stream is the return from the album Castell. And if you want to grab that, you can just go to Bandcamp, and you'll see it's free to download. Don't even want an email, don't care about your private information, don't want it, just have it for free, and as a thanks for watching. That's my goal as well at the moment. We're trying to get to 100, so if you want to be one of the first 100 to support the greatest channel in the world, then that could be your bragging rights for ages, so just do that. And same on YouTube, be an original, and that would be cool. So right, we are in the Huey, flying over the Pembroke Peninsula, which is the airfield, Stanley Airfield in the Falkland Islands. And the date is around about just after the 1st of May 1982. And these attacks on the airfield that's occurred have had, I would say, more of a psychological impact on the Argentine forces, and especially on two civilian freighters. They were here and they were offloading at the time, and they got spooked by these attacks, and essentially fled the harbour without offloading their cargo. Now, one of them was the Formosa, and this one was actually it ran out of the harbour. It eventually got mistaken by the Air Force for a British vessel, and was attacked with a bomb, which was a 1,000-pound bomb. It got hit by it, but it didn't explode, and so it returns to the Argentine mainland carrying this unexploded bomb. She was actually carrying at the time materials that would build bunkers and stuff like that, and so that prevented the Argentines' ability to improve the defences in this area. The other ship that left was the Carcarana. This had some. It had aviation fuel, it had food supplies, ammunition, and it had a rocket launcher that would have been useful against the British troops, which would eventually arrive up on these hills later. Now, this the Carcarana actually manages to transship a lot of the ammunition across to a ship called the Monsunen. And this manages to sneak into Stanley Harbour on the 3rd of May. The rest of its load, it passes over to a ship called the Isla de los Estados. And this is a ship that essentially is captured or captured by... at least found anyway, by the Alacrity on the 11th and 12th of May in the Falklands Sound, somewhere around here, I believe. And that was essentially knocked out. And so those supplies weren't able to be landed. What else we got? Let's talk about the Argentine Air Forces now, and they are fully aware of the abilities of the British ships. They are, because they've also got Type 42 destroyers. They are also they're aware of the capabilities of the defences of these ships: the Sea Dart, Sea Wolf, Sea Cat. Now, the Sea Cat is quite an obsolete weapon at this point. They're worried more about the Sea Dart and Sea Wolf missiles. And the way to get around this is that they have to fly really, really low. And because this airfield has been denied to them, or not denied, but they haven't essentially thought about extending the runway, and because the aircraft carrier, the 25th of May, has run back into port because of the sinking of the General Belgrano, the ranges of these Argentine aircraft are at their limits, especially for the MiG ones, because they're also forced to fly low, and then it's not fuel efficient, and so they're literally sort of, by the time they get out to here, and remember this Stanley's around about 400 miles away from the Argentine mainland, and they're at the limit of their range. And because of this, they are flying in low, and essentially they're trying to drop these 1,000-pound bombs too low, and they're too low for the automatic fuses to go live. So a lot of the bombs that they're dropping are dropping, hitting the ships, but not exploding. An example of this, I think, is Glasgow, HMS Glasgow. There's some ships out here that get hit by bombs, but they didn't explode. And the interesting thing is that these ships, a lot of them, they do get hit, are temporarily knocked out of the front line. They have to come out for temporary repairs. Now, the Argentine Air Force, for some reason, do carry on trying to use these bombs. They don't seem to want to swap to the 500-pound bomb, which might have been better. They didn't seem to be using parachute retardation things, which might have given the fuse a longer time to trigger. And even though on the 23rd of May, the MOD gave a mildly indiscreet briefing to the BBC, on one which the BBC went and reported anyway, which mentioned the fact that some of these ships had been hit by these bombs and the fuses hadn't gone off. So this is like literally telling the Argentinians, your bombs aren't going off, mate. So you need to either get higher or get slower with the bombs. And so it's crazy that this sort of thing could have been allowed. Whoever reported it to the BBC was an idiot, and the BBC, for reporting it, must have essentially just thought that that's what the MOD wanted them to report. So, it's crazy. But the Argentine Air Force fixated at this point with trying to actually destroy the British ships using these big bombs. These bombs go off, these ships are literally sort of destroyed. But what they could have done is actually just kind of flying low and use cannons and rockets. And because these ships, a lot of the Royal Navy ships had a Cold War design for anti-submarine warfare, and so they had less about air defenses and more about speed and being lightweight. And because they're lightweight, their actual sort of ability to carry top heavy stuff was diminished. And so they could have used the Argentine Air Force could have used rockets and cannons on these ships, and literally just have disabled them. And in disabling them, it would have been the same sort of effect. These ships wouldn't be able to survive. This is a South Atlantic winter out here. It's not a place to be if you're have issues with holes in your ship, or rudder issues, or engine issues, or anything like that, you are going to be very, very quickly having to run to a friendly harbour for repairs if you can't fix it on the sea. Right. So let's talk about let's talk about how the British are going to do this. Now, the issue that we have, I was just wondering whether to actually mention some things that are in the future. I think I will. Just an extension of these this talk. The other famous ship to be sunk was the HMS Coventry, and that was up at Pebble Island. And I think we could possibly just fly over there. In fact, it's quite a long way. We might just I might just transfer. Now, two significant, let's put it that way. I think it's... Here we go. So HMS Coventry was the other ship. That one was actually attacked, and I think bombs were landed on it. That was showed the a problem with the Seawolf missile system. Essentially, it was not great for it to. Seawolf was okay if it was defending its own ship. I think Brilliant was the guy, one of them out here. Let me just let's just pause here, and then let me just grab the map. So we're just skipping a little bit ahead here because I just need to get to a point where we can discuss why San Carlos was chosen. So this is the Falkland Islands down here, and we've now moved across to this island up here. This is Pebble Island here. Now, Goose Green, Stanley, and Pebble Island had some major airfield on it, and we're going to have a look at that in a second. And essentially, because San Carlos was chosen, which is this bay here, as a landing site, Coventry was out here in this sort of area here, and they're essentially defending the northern approaches to Falkland Sound and to San Carlos, giving early warning of approaching aircraft. And this gets this is Brilliant was the I think was the ship that had Seawolf missiles, and one of the problems it had at this time is that Seawolf was very good at defending its ship against an attack, but there was a problem when it was trying to defend another ship from attack. And what happened was, as the radar contact on the I believe it was Skyhawks, or I think, was broken by essentially HMS Coventry moving in front of the Brilliant, and that allows the Skyhawks to get in and to bomb the Coventry. And the other big issue was essentially the Argentines had around about 5 of these SAS missiles, and one of these attacks come from, I think it was the airfield at San Julian, essentially comes across to the north here, and they're flying in low, they've got these sort of an outer circle of ships around the aircraft carriers. I think Exeter might have been one. And they're flying pre-warning of these attacks, and they're flying chaff up. So the MiGs kind of fire, they're like a fire and forget Exeter things almost over the horizon. Exeter and that lot of flying chaff. And when this Exeter missile comes out of this chaff, it finds locked onto its first target. It's not really, it's kind of fired in the direction of the fleet and hope to get there. And what happened is that the Atlantic Conveyor, which is a tank cargo ship, was picked up by this Exocet and hit. And that was destroyed, caught fire, and eventually sunk. But the main thing from that is that the Atlantic Conveyor was carrying, I think, 5 Chinooks, heavy lift Chinooks. I think one of them had left the ship, but 4 were still on it. It had a lot of, I think, tents and things like that for it, and so that was one of the main losses of the task force. And now, so we now come to the point of this part of the stream, which is essentially where do the British forces land? And you've got to remember then in the back of your minds that the ability to for the British to fly supplies in, or have the troops in tents, has been diminished, and so this puts another notch on the sort of on the mission to get this thing done as quickly as possible. This war now cannot go into winter. So we're over Pebble Island here, and let me just get rid of that map, and we'll just swing around. Hopefully we should come and see this airfield. And whilst we're here, we might as well talk about the events here at the island. This is the settlement. See if we can find the actual airfield. This is a airfield, I should say, north of the Falklands, and this a bit like Goose Green, could operate these Pucaras. Just try and find actually where this airfield is. There we are, we're just probably there, isn't it? Some of these textures need loading in. Just get down low here. I think this might be it here actually. This looks a bit airstrippy. Oh. Anyway, essentially this is an airfield that is to the north and west of the future landing site at San Carlos. And so these Pumas, Picaras, these are sort of ground attack aircraft. They couldn't be allowed to be operating anywhere near essentially San Carlos, which is over in this direction. And so this is where the SAS come in, and they do a raid on this island. And 6 Picaras, 4 Turbo Mentors, and a 1 Skyvan are essentially destroyed in this area. Now, what I might do actually is pause, and we can jump out and jump into the drone, because it might be that these aircraft remains, depending on how badly blown up they were, they might still be there. And this looks like the airfield is on a beach. I don't know if that's true or not. Is that that might be true? Could it be a beach landing kind of place? It might be. This is the sort of general area where it would be. When I flew over, I thought this looked a little like an airstrip. This looks more like it, doesn't it? So we may see some evidence of the remains of, like, you know, something like that might be an old blown up aircraft. You can never really tell. So anyway, these ones were taken out at the time by the SAS prior to the landings at San Carlos. Now, I'm going to take another break now, and when I come back, we're going to have a little quick fly around the island and discuss some of the landing sites. These are the landing sites that were considered by the British and the Argentinians as potential places where landing forces could be. So we're going to jump around quickly in the next one, and then we'll end up eventually at San Carlos, and we can then see why they chose San Carlos at the end of the day. So don't go away, enjoy the music, and I'll be back in a sec. Welcome back. Welcome to Flight Pass. My name is Simon, and today we have been looking at essentially the Falklands War. We're around about the 4th of May 1982, and I promised in the last thing we're going to look around at some of these potential sites that the Argentines and the British considered as good landing sites for the British troops. And the first place we're going to go to is back to Stanley. And so we're just going to load in here. Now, Stanley was considered, especially by the Argentinians, as a likely place for a direct assault by the British. Either it being a direct primary assault or even a sort of a diversionary kind of assault, one or the other, essentially. Now, the area where they feared was essentially the same area where they landed, which is so we are hovering here. This is the Pembroke Peninsula with the airfield on it. So they were fearing essentially a landing, possibly on this peninsula here in front. Now, the Argentines did actually land some forces over here where the white dot is, and seized the lighthouse, and their actual invasion was here at York Bay. So because they've done their planning when they first did the invasion, maybe this is why they feared that this would be the same area that another landing could take place, and essentially try to sort of almost seize the airfield in a direct assault. And this is one of the reasons they that a lot of Argentine resources are frozen in place, as it were, around Stanley and the airport. The second place that was considered was over to the south of Stanley. So let's just move around. Now, again, we spoke about the Argentine invasion, and a commando force landed over at this place called Green. I think it's called Green Beach, which is on the south of this peninsula. I believe it's just here where the white dot is, one of these places here. So they feared essentially an attack from here. Now, the issue on this side is there's a lot of kelp growing along this stretch of coastline, and that might cause problems. This here is, I believe, is Green Beach. Anyway, this is where essentially the Argentine commanders have come through. So there's two areas essentially which were considered, and they're both ones which were used by the Argentines in their invasion. But from the British point of view, they considered this to be a little bit too suicidal in terms of landing. So they ruled that one out. Let's head now. Let's head north. We're going to head now to two bays that were considered essentially there's a place we're going to try to get to called North Camp, and let's get this Huey moving. So we're looking in the distance here. I think North Camp is this neck of land on the horizon here. What we might do actually is we'll just spin along this peninsula here. So there's several potential landing sites up here that were considered. The one we're going to come to first is one called Urani Bay, and I believe it's along this bit of coastline here, probably just behind this highland here. Let me just fly there. This is a very low light down here in the South Atlantic. It's depths of the winter, so the light isn't... there's not much light during this time. So that's another consideration you have to remember when we talk about the Falklands War. Okay. We're now going to fly along this stretch here, and we should come to a place called Urani Bay, which I believe might be here somewhere. So this is North Camp here. It's the area on to the furthest north east of the East Falkland Island. Urani Bay, I believe, is one of these areas here. And this was considered as a potential site for landing. But the Argentines knew about it, and it would have been a contested landing. There were Argentine outposts over here, so it was an option, and I think it was seriously considered. But the fact that there was the landing site was overlooked by Argentine outposts put them off. Now the issue with the whole of this area, which is the North Camp, and one that there was a serious issue, concern about, was the fact that there was this sort of a neck of land that was very thin, and the Falklands is all about these kind of sort of necks. So when we're heading here now, and you can see this is Urani Bay here. So this was definitely considered. And we got just to, I think where this white marker is on our left, when we get there, it should say green patch. And the one on the right here should say Port Louis, which is one, if we, when we go talk about our very early history of the Falklands, it was one of the very first settled areas was this Port Louis. And then over here would be a thing called Johnson Harbour. So this is where Urani Bay is, and this is where the British considered landing. This whole water below us is called Berkeley Sound. So what you can see ahead of us, actually it says Long Island, but it is Green Patch. There's a settlement called Green Patch here. You can see this thin sliver of land. Let me just jump back in the helicopter. Just here, this thin sliver of land there. That's called, it was the West Patch neck, essentially. And what it meant was that any good sites for landing over here on North Camp meant that troops would have to cross this small neck of land here. And so the British were obviously concerned that the Argentines could probably get to this neck quicker than they could, and essentially then cut off the British on this neck up here. And the Falklands are full of these things. If you think back to when we looked at Goose Green, just the initial flight over that we did at Goose Green, that's a neck of land as well, and that's another problem that they had, a narrow strip here. I believe Green Patches around the actual settlement is over here somewhere. So because the Argentines had an outpost over here behind us, this bay here is is decided that they're not going to use that one. The other one that they considered was, if we just spin around to the north now, there's some beaches on the north of the North Camp. So let's head up there. I think also there was a issue with some of these sites with the direction of the waves, and so there was a lot of this stuff up at the north side was quite exposed. They were seriously considering landing beaches up here because effectively this is the furthest distance away from the Argentine mainland, so it meant that the any attack aircraft would be at their maximum range. So if we come up here, we'll see essentially there's a number of beaches that are between this point here and over here, and we'll fly along that bit of coastline. Now, we mentioned back at I think it was on the 1st of May, we talked about the initial action, and one of those actions that happened on the 1st of May there was insertions of SAS and SBS teams. One of the teams, the SBS teams, were essentially checking out these sites and assessing their ability for them to land on. And the SBS check out this stretch of coastline in the early weeks of May, and they essentially report that although they potentially could be used, they found that the sites were basically unsuitable. Wave action would have been very difficult, and these beaches were too exposed. So we're just we'll come along. We'll get to this point here. We'll turn right, and we'll go back. So this is a bit of a lull in the stream as we just take a little bit of a flight. For all those who are new to the channel, I'd like to thank you for joining. You are one of the early ones. And the idea of the channel is just to use these the helicopter to chill out, fly around, and check out some places where we would probably never likely fly. And it gives us a good opportunity to check the terrain out and what it looked like, the distances involved, and what went into the decision making at the time. I like to keep it in the helicopter because it's a good balance between speed and getting to know, really judging the distances. So I hope it's not really for the fast gamers of the world. More of a chilled out atmosphere. Grab a coffee, grab a biscuit, and if you've got any information about the Falklands War and you want to share it, please do. Feel free to just add a comment below, and if you're watching in the future, do please add a comment. We will always come back. And more people who join and talk about these things, it's likelihood that we will probably come back to these areas and rediscuss them as we get a bigger audience. So this is one of the beaches that were considered. Now the other issue up here, which the first thing I'm thinking of, is that there's a lack of roads. So you're immediately trying to transport stuff across peatland. A little interesting fact, I think, is that there was a guy, I believe, he was a bit of a bird watching fan, and he was part of the team that was assessing these landing sites. And one of the beaches around here, which we'll probably come to, this on North Camp, was actually a colony of penguins, and they didn't want the penguins to be disturbed. So they, whether he told a fib about the landing site because of that, we don't know. So these are a set of beaches here along the top of North Camp. This is assessed by the SBS as potential landing sites. And so this one's rejected essentially because this coastline was too exposed. Ships would be too exposed to the wave action. There's this area here, which is green patch, was a very thin neck that linked to the main body of the island. So we're going to carry on around here, and we're going to try to get to essentially these, I believe it's these, these bays here. on the eastern side of the North Camp part of the Falklands. These bays here were, I believe, were where the penguin colonies were, and these two were considered as well. Advantages of these two bays: they're on the very far side of the Falklands again. And these were marked as early favourite sites by the British staff officers as potential landing sites. But they were rejected again for the same reasons. I mean, I would say, yeah, the bottleneck over here, essentially, once that landing site is discovered, then this green patch neck of land becomes a potential problem. And I believe, though someone can help me out, that this one of these two sites is one of the sites where the penguins are, and so you don't want to disturb the penguins, though I'm sure they would have been quite entertained. So let's fly over to those two sites, and then we'll take another break. And when we come back, we'll continue looking around the island at these potential landing sites. And today we're going to get, hopefully finish today's session with the actual site chosen. So we're coming up. These two bays are called Cow Bay and Volunteer Bay. Now, I'm not sure which is which. I think this might be Cow and this one is Volunteer. But I mean, one of the things I mean, I'm looking here. I can't see any roads or tracks even. I don't think it is. If there's a settlement here, I'm not sure. So landing here, moving over. Now remember these. Some of these considerations might have been before the Atlantic conveyor had been hit. So they will probably be assuming that they could move a lot of troops using the Chinooks, but then after the Atlantic conveyor, they are down to one Chinook only. This looks like is this a settlement? Let's just get down on low. I'm just going to check to see if we've got live weather on. Yeah. By the way, if you want to fly with me, I'm on the European West server, so feel free to buzz the tower. And you'll be forever in the stream. So I think this is Cow Bay. Again, you can see this is quite an exposed beach. You know, they may have used both. Actually, they might have used Volunteer and Cow, but this is quite an exposed area of coastline here. And I'm not sure about the prevailing winds down in this part of the world, but maybe this is very too exposed. We'll just have a quick look then at volunteer, and I think this is where the penguins are. But there is no roads here, so I can see why this was discarded afterwards. See if we can see any penguins. Getting an annoying stutter going on here. So yeah, so this one is literally, so they didn't use this one. It's too exposed. The beaches look fine for landing probably, and I would say there's a lack of roads and green patch being the neck. Right, so let's take a break there. When we come back, we'll have a look at some of the other potential sites going on for landing. Well, welcome back to Fly Past. We're here in the Huey, and we're on the Falkland Islands. We're looking at the Falklands War, and we've got to the point. It's early in May 1982, and we're just going around the island looking at some of the potential landing sites that the British were considering, and also sites that the Argentinians considered that the British would use. So we've just taken off from a place called Salvador, and this here is known as Salvador Water, and this is up in the north of the island. And then let's just get you familiar so we all know on the same hymn sheet. So here we are, Falkland Islands, and then this is Salvador water here. This whole body here, and we've just taken off from this grass airstrip here at a place called Salvador. And as you can see, in terms of relationship to Stanley, it's just to the sort of the north west of Stanley. And eventually, actually, some of these places here we'll become familiar with. You can see there's a place like Teal Inlet here, and there'll be another place down here called Estanios, I think. These will be familiar when we come to the actual infantry movements during the war. This whole site was favoured by Brigadier Thompson, who was essentially the commander of the land forces going in, and so a lot of and a lot of this. The reason we looked at the other places in the previous part, and we looked at the places around North Camp, and the whole problem they had was that this neck of land called Green Patch, which essentially meant that any landings in that area would be having to go through a strip of land that was probably less than half a mile across, and so a potential bottleneck that they wanted to avoid. Now, Salvador water meant that this is a whole area here. You can see this whole sort of inlet has a huge amount of potential landing sites that could be used. The only problem with this site was the fact that larger ships wouldn't be able to come in here. So this stretch of water below us was too shallow and narrow in places. And so it meant that a lot of the troop ships, or the some of the larger sort of transport ships wouldn't be able to get in, and so they would be forced to offload outside of this this inlet. So we can see here the how difficult to navigate the area would be, and this is the entrance here into it. It had an advantage of being on the eastern side of the island, so again it's putting the Argentine aircraft at the limits of their range. Now they know, the British know, that they're never going to get supremacy in the air, and they also know they're unlikely to get superiority as well in many times. So they have to try to protect the ships as much as possible, and the landing site as much as possible. And although this is on the eastern side of the island, and that was one of the advantages, the fact that larger ships would have to be out here. Offloading would put them at a disadvantage. Some of the Rapier missile sites and anti-aircraft positions that they would be able to establish on the land wouldn't be available to them, and so this site was rejected in the end. But it's good to see it so that you're familiar with it. We will be operating down to the south of this inlet later, so it's good to get a good view of it. And in terms of North Camp is essentially over there on the horizon. Right, so this is Salvador. Let's now move down. We're going to go to the south part of East Falkland. And we're going to try and find a place called Mare Harbour, which is there. Let's just stop here. Try to keep the real weather on. It just gives it more atmosphere. And okay, so this is Mare Harbour now. Be wary of some of these roads. Some of these roads are new. This is also known as Bertha's Beach. So this was another potential landing site. Now we are on the south part of East Falkland. So you can see that's Stanley, where my dot is now. And so we're just at the south part of East Falkland. And this was another one that was considered. I think some of this buildings here are new because essentially this airfield here is RAF Mount Pleasant, and this was all built after the war. And so a lot of materials and supplies are shipped into this area here. But you can see they believe that this was an excellent place for an amphibious assault. It was sheltered, and it was enough further south that from Stanley that the Argentines wouldn't be covering it very densely. And this, so yeah. The only issue they had with this place was, in my notes it says that they were, this area was highly vulnerable to air attack. Now I don't, presumably because of the fact that the area is so flat, Argentine jets could get low and fast, and not be, and so there's no sort of terrain for the aircraft to negotiate. Goose Green is just up here at the end of this bay, so potentially they felt that it was too close to that. But yeah, this is Mare Harbour, another one that was considered. What we're going to do, we'll fly over now across this stretch of water. We're going over to an area of East Falkland called La Fonia. And which is, let's go this way. So if we look on the map, we're going to be flying now over to this bay here. Now this bay here is called Low Bay. And Low Bay was considered an excellent site for a landing. It was also considered to be one that the Argentinians expected may be used, and that explains why there was a large force of Argentinian troops stationed down here. The problem with this whole La Fonia area is the same problem that we had up at the North Camp Peninsula or head, is that it's separated by a very small neck, and that neck was Goose Green, and we know there's at least 1,000 troops was stationed at Goose Green. So this is one of the reasons why most of the sites on Lafonia, even though they are very, very good landing sites, are discounted in the end. And Goose Green is just down here. Right, we're going to fly this slowly, and it's interestingly boring, so feel free if you don't want to watch. We're just going to chillax here. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a nice day. Anybody got anything to add as we go down? You can do that. Let me talk about the schedule maybe of what we do. And the philosophy of the channel. So the philosophy of the channel is essentially me chatting away, flying a helicopter. And I did do some streaming, maybe it's almost 10 years ago now. I think I did some just X-plane, flying X-plane stuff. And I just found at the time that the chatting away about these knobs and dials and flying a scheduled flight or a 737 or something like that was okay, but a little bit after a while you sort of run out of things to say. And when I saw that one of the pains of the X-plane at the time was that you had to download all these Orbeck scenery things. And they take up a lot of your valuable memory. And so when Microsoft comes along and starts using satellite imagery, streaming in these terrains, recreating the film one-to-one, it opens up a whole new way of looking at the Earth and using this flight simulator as essentially a tool. I was always into history and always one of these people who had a finger on the map, trying to look at flick between the map and the words. And so I thought what I could do is actually read some of these books and then go out into the world in the flight simulator and try to find these locations. And what you found amazingly is that when you go to some of these sites, especially with the modern day wars, or even like the Second World War, the terrain still has these scars of battle on them. And so I find it fascinating to be able to sort of read about these things and then go and look at the terrain. We've looked at places at D-Day, and we've managed to see a lot of craterings. Operation Goodwood, you can see in the fields around to the south east of Caen, you can see a lot of cratering where the bombs were dropping. You can see a lot of cratering at Utah Beach and Omaha and Pointe du Hoc, all these places. You can see trenches and all that sort of stuff. And the when you look down and sometimes at different times of the year, you can actually see how the grass has changed colour due to trenches or to shell holes and things like that. And of course then you can get into a helicopter and you can fly around. You can get a sense of the distances involved. You can get a sense of the there's just a bomb hole here by the looks of things. Things like that. You just come across stuff that is likely to be parts of history. You can see here the sort of landscape that they would have had to have negotiated if they've come this way. You can see how exposed this place is, and you can imagine what it'd be like to actually fight in this area and live in this area. And you can then get a judgment about how these troops by the end of June are probably at the end of their tether, with them being exposed. And if you're a defender living in these conditions, you know, it's you probably want it to just end by the time you've been here a few weeks. And so that's why and then by doing that, I suddenly realised, well, you know, this is quite cool. I haven't got anybody listening anyway, so I can just chat away to myself and try to be true to myself, as it were, and hopefully people might find that interesting. So we started off the channel back in last November 2026. So we've been going now for 8 months, and I've just found that when I do this, I just can't do it quickly. I have to sort of do it slowly. You don't get anything out of it by doing it too fast. You need to have these times when you're just chilling and looking out the cockpit, checking these places out, and then that's when you get the maximum out of these things. And so over the course of 8 months, we've done we've done 3 subjects, one of them being D-Day, which is just the first 24 hours of D-Day, because the scope got too big, and I'm sure I will go back and do the whole Normandy campaign at some point. And then we've done, we followed Napoleon from Elba all the way to Waterloo, and then back to St. Helena. And now we're doing the Falklands War. So we're just sort of following some interests of mine at the moment, and we've got future plans to do different conflicts and things like that. Anything that benefits from being in a helicopter over it. So anyway, this is Low Bay. So Low Bay is the one that was considered an ideal site. It's remote enough away, but it was the bottleneck at Goose Green that was the problem. I'm going to just skip this bit of the flight. We're going to go to the next potential site. We've only got about 3 more to go, and then we'll take a quick break. Now, it would be great if they could just allow me to flick off the clouds to see this places, but we'll try it here. This should be over the Falkland Sound. we are I think it actually might be just here on our right. Let's head. So we're looking here for a place called Egg Harbour. What's the betting that it's in the shape of an egg? I bet it's not. It's probably some Viking terminology. I believe it may be this area here. Let me have a... maybe not. It's this area just there, I believe. So we're talking, I think it's this area here. This is Egg Harbour this is the area of Lafonia, so we're just on the western side of the Lafonia part of East Falkland. This is Egg Harbour, so there's potentially some sort of settlement down here. These things look like some sort of fishing harbour, some sort of artificial sort of, well, they're just sort of spits of sand. So this is the area that was another area that was considered, and this again was a potential landing site. Now, has an advantage of being on the other side of the island from Stanley, but then it's a long way away, and it has the disadvantages again, like Low Bay, in that the neck at Goose Green would provide a problem for the British forces. So that was a reason why it was neglected. Now, Goose Green itself, we're going to come to Goose Green. That was potentially seen as a landing site for, which is, I think, this area here. See that little neck there? It was a potential landing site that the Argentinians thought that the British would try to land at, because it's got an airfield, or some sort of airfield anyway, and that would be a potential place to land. It might have been, but because the Argentinians had such a large force there, the British never considered it. It was too risky. And before we just go to San Carlos, I just wanted to go over to an island on the west side. Yeah, maybe this one. Yeah, is that it? Yeah, that's probably it. So this is Carcass Island, presumably named after whaling. Now, as you see, it's got a grass airstrip. And as you can see, it's off the coast. This was a potential site they were considering, and it might have been a site that was chosen had something happened to the aircraft carrier, and it was essentially to use this island and the airfield on it as a potential stone rock unsinkable aircraft carrier, but that I think would have been something that would have been used if if they had to. Maybe if there was a potentially that one of the aircraft carriers had to withdraw, this could have been a potential landing site. Engineers could have got down here, maybe improved the runway, made it at least good for Harriers and helicopters, and potentially be a site to build from rather than to actually land. And the other place was in this area is called Steveley Bay, which is just find my bearings here. It's well, I mean, it's essentially this bay here. So let's just go south, and then we can finish this part of the stream. So it's just on the other side of this neck here. So so there are all the potential sites, and the one thing that's really interesting is that we're gonna finish this part here, and then in the next section of the stream we'll go and have a look at San Carlos Bay. And San Carlos Bay was chosen. It was a deep water bay. It was surrounded by mountains, and it was potentially far enough away from Stanley, but near enough to be used to walk to. Why am I crashing here? Anyone know why I got a yellow light? Is that an altitude warning, is it? It had, as I say, deep water. It could be unloaded. Cruise liners like the Canberra could get into it. And it had... I think am I running out of petrol? Anyway, it had hills around it to hopefully protect some of the ships, so it makes the approach of any attacking aircraft difficult. And yeah, it essentially was the area that was chosen, and we'll go and have a look at that in the next part. Funnily enough, though, the Argentine army and didn't, or the Argentines themselves, didn't consider it to be a potential landing site. and so it was well, if anything, it was not protected at all or defended at all, and probably that was one of the reasons as well that it was chosen. So this is the other area we're going to be looking at that was considered as a stone aircraft carrier. There's a number of sort of grass strips on this peninsula here, so this was one of that concepts. But I think the war would have been going pretty badly for the British to consider this, and I think this would have been potentially something that they might have considered if the war had spread past the winter, as a potential way to get a sort of a foothold. Right, I'm going to leave that there, take a break. When we come back, we'll go to San Carlos, and we'll have a quick fly around San Carlos and check out that area. So if you are watching and you haven't followed, please do. And it'd be great to get to 100 at some point this year. And the same again for all you people watching on YouTube. If you like to subscribe, that would be great. Really appreciate it if you did that. Okay, I'll be back in a couple of minutes if you're watching live on YouTube and Twitch. And if you're watching later, I'll be in the next part. Welcome back to Flight Paths. My name's Simon, and we are in the Huey. We are on the north end of the Falklands Sound, and we've been discussing in the previous parts the potential sites and of landing by the British forces considered, and we've been all the way around the islands. We've been looking at One's near to Stanley itself. One's near on the East Falkland one. We even considered potential stone rock carriers of islands for a site. But the British eventually decide on this place. This is we're in the Falkland Sound, and over to our left here, this body of water, you can just see where my white dot is San Carlos Bay. And San Carlos Bay is chosen as the landing site. Now, there's a number of reasons for this. This sound is deep, and the San Carlos Bay is deep. This allows large ships to get into. It's a protected harbour area with a small entrance. It's got hills around it, which would be used not only for air defences and Rapier missile sites, but also it has to forces Argentine aircraft to go above the terrain and then down. And we've discussed the reasons for why the Argentines are so fixated on low flying into these places, because they're worried about the Sea Dart missile system, and so they're trying to get low. And we've also seen that essentially what's happening is they're trying to destroy the British ships and not disable them. So they're trying to drop 1,000-pound bombs. These 1,000-pound bombs are being released too low. So you hear a lot of cases where British ships are hit by a bomb. Bomb will go through or out the other side, or they will the bomb will lodge in the ship, but they remain unexploded. And so there's a lot of cases of this happening. And even though there was an indiscreet briefing to the BBC on the 23rd of May that stated that some of these bombs weren't exploding, and the BBC then went reporting it, reported that the Argentine military didn't pick up on this, and they continued to try to drop 1,000-pound bombs. And it was one of the errors that they made. They could have switched to the 500-pound bomb, or they could have put parachute retardation parachutes onto their bombs, which would slow down the 1,000-pound bomb and enable them to blow up. Or they would have to try to fly in a little bit higher. Now, what they, in hindsight, what they should have just done is attack the ships with cannons and rocket fire. Essentially, this wouldn't have destroyed the ships, but it might have disabled them, and having the ships having to pull out and go for repairs would have been the same as actually destroying them. And it would have probably been they would have probably had more success in neutralizing a lot more of the British ships if they had done that. So this is San Carlos Bay, and as you say, we've been around the islands looking at these potential sites, and yeah, they have landing zones up here, here at San Carlos settlement, and there's also down into this area here. The Falklands Sound itself had a number of ships that were providing anti-aircraft screening, and what we will do when we come back in the next stream is we start looking at these waves of Argentine aircraft that come in once they know that this is the actual landing site of the British. Now, this is an amazing place, essentially. Or the amazing thing about this, the time pressures that the British forces are under, means that they are nowhere near the air superiority that they want. There's they're literally going to be a contested landing especially the first daylight after their landing, and so this is why there was an importance to neutralize those Picaras that were up at Pebble Island, neutralize the Picaras that were down at Goose Green, and deny the use of Port Stanley Airfield. And so the main air force, the Argentines can fly now into this stretch of water is coming from the mainland, and they're at the limit of their range when they do so, even though the Skyhawks could refuel with their KC whatever it is tankers. So yeah, this is San Carlos. Now, thank you. We were talking. Let's talk about. And by the way, when we were talking about the supply ship, the Ile de los Estados, that was sunk, I believe, over here. That was by HMS Alacrity, and that was on the 11th of May. And this San Carlos itself, and this is San Carlos, the actual place, but this whole bay is used to offload. This was selected as a landing site on the 12th of May 1982. And once that had been selected, then the raid on Pebble Island that we just looked at, that was conducted by the SAS. They were launched from HMS Glamorgan, and they raided that Pebble Island on the 14th of May, so 2 days after this place is selected. Just spin around here. What else is happening? So the actual landings, so the SAS went in on Pebble Island on the 14th, and the landings here would begin on the 21st of May 1982. Other things are happening on the 12th of May when this was selected. The 5th Army Brigade, they would be including the 2nd Battalion of the Scots Guards and the 1st Battalion of the Welsh Guards. And then the 1st Battalion of the 7th Gurkha Rifles. They would be sailing from Southampton on the requisitioned QE2 on this day, the 12th of May 1982. On the same day as well, we talked about this sort of screening effect. So Glasgow and Brilliant, they shoot down 3 Skyhawks on this day. But this is also a day where Glasgow is hit by a bomb, but it's not. It's an unexploded one. This is, let me see where I can find this. bear with me, sorry, let me just see if I can find where that happened. That happened to the south, southeast. That was so the attack of the Skyhawks came in, and essentially Glasgow is hit by a bomb and disabled, and so has to pull out. So when I talked at the beginning that when the Falklands Wars occurred, I was about 11 years old. These details of all these other ships being hit, but not destroyed or anything like that, like this incident of the Glasgow, was something that we were never told about at the time. I don't think it's only something we found out later, and it's, well, you can tell, you can understand why. It's because essentially the British didn't want the Argentinians to know that their fuses were essentially too long on their bombs, and they were dropping them too low. So we're in this sort of period, it's sort of mid-May, and so the sort of the way that the war is going is now that the British are going into this preparatory area where they've now decided on that this is going to be where they will land, and they've now gone into making sure that the Pebble Island airfield is neutralized, and now I know there's some other significant events at this time. The air war really picks up. So after the raid at Pebble Island, we now go into this this day, which I would say is quite an infamous day. And this is probably a good topic just to finish off this stream. And this is the day which is the 21st of May. Now, you have to bear with me because this is going to be quite a lot, but we will I'll run through them very quickly, and then we can get you can get the sort of essence of what happened. So on the 21st of May, now remember this is this site here in San Carlos has been chosen, and the preparation is going in. In the morning, at about 8 o'clock, a Harrier, a GR3, uses its cannon and takes out a Chinook and 2 Pumas on the ground. And they were over on the by a mountain called Mount Kent, and this is an important this denies the essentially Argentinians a lot of transport for ferrying troops around the island to support bases. So that was important. Then at 8:40, we get a member of the SAS using a Stinger missile takes down a Pucara aircraft, and again that's on the that was actually occurred just to the southeast of San Carlos Bay. So I believe it was somewhere over here where my white dot is now. So we've obviously got SAS operating around the San Carlos area. They've been doing a reconnaissance, and presumably part of that reconnaissance is the reason why San Carlos is chosen, and they are probably somewhere in this area. I think it might I don't think this here is Mount Osborne. So it's somewhere in this area here. We've got a SAS patrol operating, and they shoot down a Pucara using a Stinger missile. The pilot of that aircraft ejects safely. Then we get two Gazelle helicopters, British Gazelle helicopters, are brought down by small arms fire, and this is at 8:41, and that oh, these textures, what's going on here? Let's we might have to abandon the stream soon if we're actually, let's just pause here. We'll jump out, we'll go into the drone. Yeah, so two Gazelle helicopters are essentially shot down by small arms fire near to the port of San Carlos in this area here. Again, we may see some wreckage, we doubt it, but it's in this area here. And then we have at 9:50 we get a Harrier shot down on this at 9:50 by a blowpipe, and see if I can find where that was. So that occurs on the other side of the Falklands Sound at a place called Port Howard. So that Harrier is shot down with a blowpipe here. essentially at the entrance here of this. So that is shot down there. So you can see that the numbers are quite amazing. We then have I won't go and show this one, but it's a dagger. Is brought down by a broadsword sea wolf. Then we have a Pucara, an Argentine Pucara aircraft at 1210. That's taken down by Sea Harrier cannon fire. And let's have a look, see if I can find where that is. And that was down at that place we were talking about, Egg Harbour. Then we have that was a guy, Tomba, Squadron Leader Tomba. And he actually ejects from that. Then we have two Skyhawks are shot down by Sea Harriers, and let me see if I can find where that is. And that is in the center of this island here, the West Falkland. They are obviously dogfighting in this area. We get another. So there seems to be a large dogfight. This is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and flight officers Manzotti and Lopez, pilot officer Lopez, is killed. We also get a Group 6 dagger. That's shot down by a Sidewinder. Again, Flight Officer Luna ejects from that one, and that's over on this West Falklands. We then get a 2 daggers, again shot down by Sidewinders. This is in the space of 20 minutes. So there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aircraft shot down by a Sea Harrier. Again, in this sort of central area of in this area here of West Falkland. So the aircraft are all flying this way. This is on the 21st, so this is before the San Carlos landings. And there's another dagger shot down at 2:55. See if I can find where that is. I can't find that one. Ah, yes, it's near the mountain which is called Mount Caroline. So well, quite nice light here. Which is I think yeah, this is Mount Caroline, and essentially this aircraft gets shot down somewhere in this area here. It's unlikely we'll be able to see it, but it's somewhere in this area here. That aircraft was shot down, and let's give the pilot his name. So this was Flight Officer Sen, S-E-N-N, and he ejects here. And that's shot down by a Sea Harrier with using cannon. But the losses carry on. 1511, 2 Skyhawks are shot down, and they are shot down in these in a set of islands in the fort, just to the south here, where this rain cloud is, I believe. If we come down here, they were flying essentially down this way, and I believe these islands here are called the Thesson Islands, I believe, and this is the area where these two what did I say? They are Skyhawks, yeah. So they was flying south down here, and they get shot down. And one of the commanders is he ejects, and the other one, Lieutenant Marquez, is killed. And then we have at 3:20, another Skyhawk is shot down initially by Sea Harrier cannon, but it also possibly its own, the Argentines' own anti-aircraft guns, and that was let me find where that is. Yeah, so that's just south of Stanley. So presumably he was trying to make his way. I'm not familiar with what happened, but presumably if he shot down with a combination of Harrier cannon fire and anti-aircraft carrier, it looked like he was potentially trying to make it back to Stanley Airfield. And what happened to him? He ejects, and that's Sub-Lieutenant Archer. And that is that's the 21st of May. So let me just summarize there. This is a day where the war in the skies has really taken off. So there is a Chinook and 2 Pumas, a Picara, 2 Gazelles, a Harrier, Dagger, another Picara, 2 Skyhawks, a Dagger again, another 2 Daggers, another Dagger, 2 Skyhawks, and another Skyhawk. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 aircraft are lost on the 21st of May, 1982. So we are really ramping up the war here, and so I think as well we have an insertion by an SAS team goes into Argentina, in southern Argentina, which goes wrong, and the helicopter has to be landed in Chile, and the helicopter burned. And I believe a helicopter crashes on the 19th. Did I mention this? There's a helicopter. I can't remember the details, but I think it was one that was carrying 21 SAS men, and they crash, and they're lost. I'll have to look back on those details. So this is the 21st of May. And and this is the reason is because the San Carlos landings have begun, and we end up with all these aircraft being shot down. So yeah, this is pretty bad. When we come back, what we'll do is I can look at the directions and the way that the aircraft are flying in. But you can see that the whole skies around this area is lit up as the troops start to land at San Carlos Bay. Right, I hope that is good, and I will leave that there. And so when we come back, we'll look into the landings, the times that the landings happen, and we'll look at how all of these fights happen around this place. So what else can we do? Yeah, so I think San Carlos is where we're going to be talking about. We'll look at the Ardent and Antelope being hit, and yeah, well then we can then get to the point to where troops start to move off in certain directions, one being towards Goose Green, which you can see down there to the right, and then the others, the Royal Marines, going across the island towards Stanley. So we're just approaching here the 21st of May 1982. Okay, hopefully that's been cool. So we basically looked into all the potential sites that were considered during the thing and the war, and we've ended up here at San Carlos Bay. And just to finish, so this is the view if you were a ship, and so you can see how the land on each side, in a certain sense, protects the shipping from air attack, and it kind of does dictate sometimes the direction of attack of the Argentine aircraft. So yeah, this is the view if you were a ship down here. Cool. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it and got anything out of it, then please leave a like. I'm trying to get to 100 because that's what Twitch says I need to get to. I suppose even if I can get to 84, that would be really cool. If you want any of the music that you've heard at the beginning and the ends of these streams, then you can just go to Bandcamp. You can download the music for free. I don't want anything for it. But if you do want to leave a tip, that's up to you. And that supports the channel as well. When we come back then, it will probably be... I might be streaming tomorrow. Check the schedule. I will try to stream lunchtime, UK time. And but you can always catch up. It's on Twitch for a week or so, 2 weeks maybe. And if you missed that, then you can go to YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube. Just go to the playlist channel, which says Live Reconnaissance Flights. And then I believe I've started to upload the episodes. I break them into these little episodes, and they'll be released coming up. I think there's a backlog at the moment. If you go to the actual releases on YouTube, it's all the Waterloo stuff at the moment, and the broken up bits are going to be coming in September. Leave any comments, all that sort of stuff, and as usual, I'm waffling, and I'll stop here. Goodbye.